Hello, team.
Hello, legends. Welcome to Real Talk with
Real
Mitch
talk.
and Vic. You like
You
the name?
you teased that. I wanted to start this, podcast or like screening several months ago, and I called it Real Talk, and he laughed at that, and now he's calling it. But my name's Vicky Vanderluke, and this is Mitchell Phillips, and we are the co-founders of Real Fitness Training, and have been for the past decade. So we birthed and created Real Fitness Training 10 years ago. And yeah, we wanted to start this series in, I guess, for us being in the industry in a combination 28, 30 years to
30
combined
years.
together. So it's been a long time in the industry, but also just our wisdom and knowledge that we want to bring through for you all to achieve better health, achieve better results, but not just in your physical transformation, but in your life. Because I truly believe the vehicle of life, actually, I know that the vehicle of life is this physical body. So how we look after it, how we nurture it, how we love it is so important for every aspect of life.
100%. So
you'll understand that Mitch doesn't really have many words throughout this series. It will be me talking. So you're going to get really direct responses from Mitch. He's very much, if anyone's into human design, he's a projector. He will just say it how it is. When I'm a generator, so I will just talk. Let's say I'm talking. But it'll be fun. This is how we work.
100%. That's exactly why I work. So we wanted to jump on today and give a bit of a history around RFT and explain some of our decisions and choices into why we created and established the business we have, and some of the ethos and philosophies that surround that. And this is the part that I'm really good at.
Yes.
So for the next 10 minutes, you're going to hear solely from me, and Vic's just going to nod and agree.
Are you pre-framing that?
So basically, guys, obviously, for those that don't know RFT, we did start a decade ago, and we started with the sole focus and mission to create an inclusive environment that was not intimidating and friendly, so people could feel comfortable to start their health and fitness journey, but more specifically, to feel comfortable and confident within the weight training room. So we've always had a really strong emphasis on strength training. And I think for the sake of today's conversation, I'm just going to break it down a little bit and explain why.
Sorry. keep going. Because I'll put it up. It's going to ask me. Should I just upload it later?
Just upload it later.
Okay. Sorry.
So normally I draw like a little diagram and make it visual for you guys, but I'm not prepared for that. Oh, can I do it on here?
Yeah. But before we even get to that, meet participants at granted at a position. We can have a diagram, but before we even, this is cool. Okay, so wait, before we even get into that, how do we exit this? Where? Okay, sorry, guys.
Technical difficulties on our first podcast.
Yeah, it's all right. It's going to go upwards from here. But, when Mitch and we were 22, 21, when we created Real Fitness Training, and we had the option at the time to actually buy into a franchise that we were both working at, and it's a fabulous franchise, and it gets
fantastic business if you're stepping into your business journey with no experience.
And being 21, 22 would have been very helpful. But when we sat down with the BDM and, we put forward that, we had these ideas into what we wanted to create, and that was to create a more holistic approach with our clients' results and our services that we provide. So we wanted to bring on yoga. We wanted to bring on, more of that holistic nutrition side, and just overall well-being, mentally and physically, for people's health and fitness journey, because it's something that we so strongly believed in. And he kindly, and sternly said to us, if you want to do that, you need to create your own thing. Just go and do it.
Just go do it by yourself.
Go and do it by yourself. And that was the kind of permission, not that we needed permission, but it was
a catalyst.
It was the thing. I was like, oh, okay. So true. we need to do this on our own. And yeah, anyway, the doors just started opening up from there once we made that decision, of course. And yeah, we started on our way of really cultivating this holistic approach with people's health, and we haven't looked back. So let's look. Do you want a whiteboard now, or did you want to explain it?
I'm going to just draw it.
Yeah. Such a projector, a whiteboard.
So you want to know more about your human design, feel free to just book a call with Vicky and she can run you through it. But essentially, when we look at, I'm kind of drawing my trackpad, so it might not be that great. So when we look at energy expenditure, we essentially created our business structure model around a less is more approach. So how do we get people better results doing less, right? So the whole concept of what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to have people have the need to train in a gym less, have the need to make smaller nutritional changes, and they still get the best outcome. So when we look at like daily expenditure, it's broken down into a few parts. All right. So the first part is we have 60% of your energy expenditure comes from what we call your BMR, which is a basal metabolic rate. This is really, to all the teachers out there, kudos to you. So what this means is essentially your metabolism. So
60%, right?
Wow. I thought mine was.
Keep going.
So the only way to really directly impact your BMR is through structure strength training. Okay. So when we looked at the business model we're going to set up, we knew that we had to have a strong emphasis around weight training, but not just weight training as a whole. Obviously, creating a business, it would have been far easier for us to have, 30 people in a class doing some form of weighted exercise. But we chose the latter. We chose to have smaller sessions. We chose to have more structured strength sessions where people were able to not just train open chain movement, but obviously closed chain. So like think around like utilizing more machines. So we're able to get a greater amount of muscle activation and also drive a bit more intensities from the lifts as well.
And a business standpoint, when we it doesn't really make sense because you are obviously investing a lot more into a smaller boutique studio. And also having, lesser people per session as well. But that's never been our focus, has it? It's been really about impact and seeing the results that we can achieve with our clients in a sustainable and long-term approach.
100%. So we know that obviously weight training is going to help alter someone's BMR. So that's why we have a strong emphasis on weight training. So we're trying to add muscle to the body to increase their BMR, and that happens through structured periodized training. The next part we have is what we call your NEAT, and this accounts for approximately 20%. So think of NEAT.
What does it stand for?
It stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? So basically it's incidental movement that you get throughout the day. As coaches, we put a number on this and we put an objective measurement being steps because we're able to manipulate that data point and change it and alter it. 20%.
20%.
So when we look at this aspect, it means that the half an hour, the hour you spend in the gym doesn't really matter for much if the other 23 hours of your day is really poor in terms of like a movement standpoint. So if you do an hour session between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m., but then go sit down for the next, 16, 18 hours and then go to bed, the overall energy expenditure you have is quite low. And the reason being is because the next two parts of our daily energy expenditure only accounts for roughly 10%. So the first one we have is the energy expenditure through food. So thermic effect of food, which is obviously nutrition. But it's like your body's ability to metabolize, like it's like using the energy. And then the top one we have there is exercise, which is also 10%. So exercise is obviously the training you do in the gym. So what this goes to show to highlight is that if you were doing more in terms of a movement standpoint, it really only accounts for 10% of your energy expenditure on any given day. If you're doing more and more with a movement standpoint, that is a whole heap of cardio, you're essentially going to run the risk of obviously decreasing your BMR by breaking down some of that muscle tissue and essentially losing it because you're not applying enough stimulus to the muscles to have them obviously grow or even maintain. But that gives you a quick summary of the reason why we obviously prioritize weight training, because we know that we're going to build muscle. It's going to increase our BMR. You obviously know that we prioritize daily movement away from the gym. So making sure people are getting enough exercise, or not even exercise, but incidental exercise in. So like parking further away from the car, from the shop entrance, or taking the stairs over the lift, getting off the bus a bit earlier, having to walk a bit further. These are some little strategies we have to drive up that NEAT. Okay. Obviously nutrition, we help you with that aspect through some coaching.
Sorry, you already spoke about strength training.
Yeah.
Increasing your BMR. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
And then the exercise component there. So we know that those 2 strength sessions a week is enough to start to provide some adequate volume. And then obviously the daily movement helps, which obviously drives that less is more approach.
Yes. Excellent. I'm just going to close this down. Yeah, I love that. And our philosophy has really been built by that, right? And one of the key things that I think I really want to point out today is, especially for the community that is currently listening, is how you can actually achieve the less is more approach within the walls of RFT, because it's something that our philosophy has been built at, and maybe it hasn't been utilized to its full advantage. Okay. Because I do think as well, me personally, I have been stuck on that hamster wheel of, exercise. And yes, I did achieve incredible, body composition results in that time. I got down to 13% body fat. I was in really peak condition, but did that mean I felt good? No. I had very poor digestion. I constantly had very, very poor sleep, constant headaches, a lot of muscle tension because my body wasn't recovering properly. And just overall didn't feel good, was constantly fatigued, constantly had very, very low energy. And I kind of accepted that as being my norm. Well, if I want to be, this lean or whatever, this is, probably 6 or 5 years ago now, I would have to this is the life I'd have to live. And it consumed so much of my time, the amount of output I had to put into my training, but also how, I guess, strict I felt like I had to be with my food. And it was not like, I'm so grateful for everything, because Mitch and I have literally, me especially, have tried every diet, every paleo, every vegan, everything you can ever imagine. And it's given me so much knowledge, because I've been able to experience it firsthand, which has given me wisdom, and actually what for me has worked the best. And this approach we've come back to has always been the approach that we started RFT on. So grateful for the wisdom that I've learned from it, but also so grateful that now I'm able to find this approach where I'm able to sit at exactly the same body fat percentage, but I'm actually doing way less. I'm sleeping so much better. I rarely ever have headaches. Never, I'd say, have headaches. My digestion is on point. I've already said sleep, energy levels, even mood has improved so much, because that all comes with it, right? It does. So I want to speak more into that. And, again,
I think when it comes to you as well, like when you're doing a lot more exercise, you found it really hard to control the dietary side of things.
Well, yeah.
On the back half of the week, so depleted and so hungry from not necessarily overtraining, but training too much compared to what you were inputting, that you became really hard to control your nutrition over the Friday to Monday.
100%. And and then wondering why I'm not getting results. And it was because of what I was doing over the weekend, right? Which I've openly spoken about, but it's also understanding, okay, well, what is the less and more approach? So let's go through that. Have you gone through that? No. I was kind of really focused on that diagram.
Kind of explain a little bit through the diagram. So basically, obviously, the less is more approach is quite simple.
So we're starting with strength training, right?
Yeah, it's trying to hit a minimum of 2 sessions per week in the gym, in the weights room, obviously in a structured, periodized manner. So when we talk structured, periodized, structured means obviously following a set program for X amount of weeks, so you can see progress through it. And then when we talk periodized, it's like, obviously you don't want to do the same rep and the same weight for 4 consecutive weeks, because you're not going to see any progress through that sort of lift, I guess. So what we're looking at doing is obviously following the program for 4 weeks, but then each week we're either moving through trying to add more weight to the exercise, or trying to add a couple of extra reps to the exercise, so we can see continual progress, so we're actually able to start to build some muscle tissue.
So just on that, this approach is being really something I've come back to postpartum. So I had put on 22 kilos with Byron. After obviously I had Byron, I was around 16 kilos. So I had dropped all of that over that time frame. And it was literally focused on over 5 months, actually. Yeah. But it was that focus of less is more approach. Coming back out of postpartum, like the last thing you want to do is go and smash yourself. Like, trust me, like, everyone probably knows, but like, you're so energy depleted, right? So I, started with just the 2 strength sessions a week. So the focus of strength training as well, we got to remember that after the age of 30, it's actually harder to maintain your muscle than it is to grow it. So it's harder to keep it than grow it. And then every decade we lose
3 to 4%.
3 to 4%. Okay.
And you got to look at
of muscle tissue.
You got to think of your muscle as your suit of armor for the body, right? So when we talk suit of armor, there's a lot of research out there to suggest that your muscle mass is going to be the key primary indicator into the quality of your life as you get older.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about that, when we talk quality of life, it's like, when you start to enter in your 70s, your 80s, like, do you still want to be able to, play with your grandkids, your great grandkids? Do you want to still have a relatively active lifestyle where you even travel, see the world?
Yeah.
And even coming back from that, like just having a level of independence.
Being able to get up and off the ground.
Up and down off the ground.
Like that's...
And the primary driver of that is going to be how much muscle you maintain. So if you think of it like a suit of armor, you're putting in the work now. So as you do get older, you're going to have the highest quality of life possible. Because at the end of the day, there's no point having quantity of anything if you don't have the quality
of it. And muscle, strength training has been just massive in all the research around, especially women and going through menopause and premenopause. And it's absolutely crucial to be strength training. And what we don't think about, like we focus so much on weight loss. I think society, we focus so much on weight loss and losing weight and just looking good, but we don't think about like the other drivers that we need to be focusing on for that longevity and for that quality of life, right?
It comes back to sometimes when we
focus on
health isn't a game we ever win, right? The goal of health, the game of health is not to get healthy. The goal is to get healthy and stay healthy.
Yeah.
We need to remember that we are playing an infinite game. There's no end point to the game of health.
No.
Because we want to obviously achieve our objectives, but then the primary objective is, for me, the best transformation is not the people that lose 15 kilos in 4 months.
Yeah, it's just
the people that I catch up with 3, 4, 5 years later and they're still 15 kilos down. Like that for me is
and stronger and fitter.
That for me,
because that's a possibility. Purpose. Like I said yesterday in my video introducing this, is like, I know people in their 50s that come to RFT that are way healthier and fitter and stronger than those in their 20s that I know. So it's, this is the anti-aging process, is that strength training. And
down into youth and longevity.
Literally. And remembering that strength training also is the thing that determines your metabolic rate. So how fast your metabolism. So if you're saying your metabolism's slow, it's just that you haven't got enough muscle tissue. So you need to work on building that muscle tissue. And this has been such a big focus that we have at RFT, is that driving home of strength training and making sure that it is structured, it is periodized, and is you are getting results, each and every single week that you come here. So
and that's the benefit of following a plan, right? Following the plan enables you to see continued progress. Because if you come to the gym, a lot of the conversations I have in the consulting part of what I do is people just rock up to the gym and do kind of whatever they feel like on the day they go. And when we're not really following a structured plan, we tend to forget about different muscles, different movements.
That's why he writes my training plans, because I would just put everything I like in and probably skip half of it. There's a sense of like accountability,
And that's why she gets continued progress, is because she sticks to the plan. We alter the rep ranges and loads on a weekly basis. The tempo. Yeah. We change it up every 4 to 6 weeks.
And it keeps it exciting. Like for me, that keeps it exciting. As you would know, doing any of our programs is like, that's the variation that you get to have.
But you have to see progress, you have to do something for a long enough period of time.
Yes.
So like changing in the exercise every time you go to the gym is not going to allow you to see adequate progress.
What I love about strength training too is that it is for all ages, no matter what age you are. We've got a beautiful client here who's in her 90s, and it's like, this was the first time she walked into the gym, right? So this is just so inspiring to see that it is for all ages. We've got teen classes here. So, as young as 12, coming in and starting to utilize this muscle. What we don't use, we lose. Okay. So if we don't use these muscles, we're going to lose them. And the primary focus that I see when I've done consulting within here is how low our BMRs are, especially for women who have never strength trained in their lives, you know? So, yeah. So that's, strength training. So minimum of twice a week of strength training is going to get you really, really, really amazing results. And then the next focus is your daily movement.
Yeah. So obviously the importance of daily movement, we can't stress enough. So like I would say minimum step count for, like, remember, steps is the objective measurement. It's not what you actually is like, it's not neat. Like if you're naturally quite active, like me personally, I'm very active on a daily basis. I don't really have to set myself a step goal because my steps are normally quite high already. But going from being full-time trainer to full-time office clerk, I have seen a natural decrease in my steps. And now I'm having to be more conscious of how I'm getting my incidental movement in each day. Now you got to remember, like, it makes up 20% of your energy expenditure. So that's one of the primary reasons why the step count is important. It also helps you regulate your appetite.
That's a huge one.
It means you are going to be less likely to overconsume calories.
I think because I've been doing such a long time, when I am low on my step count, I naturally notice that drive for more food and carbs especially. So just wanting more of that glycogen, when really my body has it in there. And going for a walk is probably is going to give me more energy than, you know, going for a snack.
100%. Other benefits is obviously aids recovery because you're getting blood flow to the muscles in the body. So you're going to spread some more oxygen through the body. It's high. It acts as a bit of a meditation if you are going for a walk, like 30 minutes in the sunshine. You get vitamin D, resetting the circadian rhythm, helping you manage your cortisol.
So the way you might put that into your week, you might start the morning with it. You might do it before your session, after your session here. You might take a lunch break, allow yourself a 15-minute, 20-minute walk in your lunch break. You might come home in the afternoon, and before you cook dinner or start dinner, or maybe even after dinner, you might go for a 15, 20-minute walk. So these are really simple ways, you know. It doesn't have to, just commit to 10 minutes. And if you're out there, you're like, oh, actually can do 15. Actually, I could do 20, and then just, you know, build that amount. If you're finding, you know, your daily movement is just not hitting those 8,200 steps, then that's how I would put that in. But low impact, like the two things that I just want to point out with strength training and also your walking or your need, is that they're both low impact. Like, we're not telling you to jump on and off benches or like around benches or do 100,000 burpees, you know. It's just literally very, very, very low impact exercise, which, you know, we've done CrossFit before, and there's nothing. I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with it, but for sustainability, especially for us, because we had just started a business, like we were very young, but we were like working huge hours. And we were just so exhausted. We used to nap at lunchtime and like just eat. I would eat so much food because like my body was just so exhausted, right? And so tired. So body fat wise, like I wasn't lean at all. I was like strong and fit, but I was pushing myself. Like, it was, for me, probably young as well, it was a lot of ego-based training, I would say, because you constantly want to like push your hardest.
If you don't know Vicky, Vicky has to be the best and win everything.
Yeah, smash yourself, right? Not anymore.
Not anymore. Right.
Anyway, yeah, so that's like the low impact, and yeah, how it acts as a type of
meditation almost.
Yeah. Okay, and the third one?
The third one we have
nutrition.
Obviously nutrition. So
you can't out-train a bad diet.
You saw the graph I drew before. You can't. Exercise makes up 10% of your energy expenditure. So it's going to be, if you look at like the amount of calories you burn in a session, it's not accurate anyway. So I wouldn't be judging that on my watches and stuff. But let's say you burn 250 calories in a 45-minute session, having to work relatively hard. You can have 2 swigs of, you know, a Coke or a can of Coke, and those 200 calories could quite easily be gone. So just in that aspect alone, it highlights the fact that you can't out-train a bad diet. If you go back through our Instagram, you'll see me trying to have Damo out-train his bad diet, and it didn't work out for him. It was like 30 seconds to consume the food. It was like 55 minutes to burn it off. So I think that's a wrong strategy to implement. So it's like, for us,
with our approach with nutrition, is really it is it is creating it as a lifestyle. So it's not saying that you can never eat chocolate again, or you can never, it's not about that at all. Actually have it, you know, because I'd rather you have it. And then rather than, you know, kind of like binge on it, like, you know, because you haven't had it for so long, fit it into your day.
I had a conversation with someone in the car park not long ago, and obviously we all know the 80-20 rule, 80% good whole food. No, I'm not gonna say good. 80%.
There's no good or bad. This is good. This is important though. No. Can we just? I know you're looking at your watch because you're like, I know time conscious right now, and that's beautiful. But I just want to really point out that it's not about making them good or bad. Like there's no, like I guess psychologically we've kind of looked at food. This is a good food and this is a bad food, and this is something that we're very much not. No, there's healthier options, more beneficial.
I would say
more beneficial for your health.
I think it's important to understand like food is food. It's fuel for the body.
It is.
There's some things that make you they're gonna leave you feeling fulfilled, energized, good.
Yeah.
And there's going to be things that leave you feeling sluggish, tired, heavy, bloated.
And you guys know that.
Not so good.
You already would know that. You know when food makes you feel really good and when foods don't. So it's using the 80-20 rule of 80%, earth-made whole foods, 20%. That come from the ground. Like at the end of the day, our bodies have never changed in the way it processes things in the inside, but yet the amount of processed food we now have in our world is like 10x, no more, 100x. There's more processed food than ever before. It's not saying that you shouldn't have that or you can't ever have that, but make that your 20%. Don't that 80% really stick to those whole foods that come from the ground, and witness what that actually does for your mental and physical health, because it has a direct, like gut and brain is like they're now, research is now showing that your gut is actually your first brain, not your second brain, your first brain. So we think our brain's up here, but our gut holds so much microbes and it sends messages continually to the brain that actually proving that this gut is our first brain. So looking after your gut health, right, with that 80%. But it's also because we went really that way for a very long time, and then making, the other 20% like a guilty choice, which isn't conducive at all, because
poor relationship,
but it's also like when I'm consuming this food, like it's counteracting the whole process because your thoughts are actually stronger than all of this anyway. So it's not making those things wrong. It's enjoying that, but it's knowing that, let's make it that minority, not the majority.
Yeah. So,
and you enjoy it more.
Yes.
You enjoy it more. Like I enjoy sitting down and having that ice cream, or I enjoy having that whatever. I don't know.
So to make the 80-20 rule work,
it's not mindless eating.
You're prioritizing proteins and plants, and that's obviously a large emphasis we put on. It's
2%, 2 times your body weight.
Yeah, so you're trying to have about double body weight protein in the day. So it's like 30 to 40 grams per meal. Most people have 4 meals per day. Eating adequate plant matter. So you're looking at like anywhere from, I'd kind of say minimum 500 grams, and that combines fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And then from there, if you're doing those 2 basic things first,
you're
going to have a bit more flexibility, because that's kind of like the bulk. That's like your 80%. So you're going to have a bit more flexibility in your other choices. And that's what actually drives sustainable weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to like the way we work with our clients and our community, it comes back to like, as a coach, I frankly, initially, I'm not really fussed on what you pick to eat.
Yeah.
As long as you're hitting those minimums of sticking to your small calorie deficit, which is going to drive fat loss, because that's the only thing that's going to drive fat loss is your calorie deficit. Making sure you're eating adequate protein, so hitting your sort of 2 grams per kilo of body weight, and then making sure you're having adequate plant matter per day. And then from there, the rest of your selection is entirely up to you and what you enjoy. So for me, like I love my chocolate, and I'm having 2 squares every night before I go to bed as a non-negotiable. And that makes that part of my 20%.
As a non-negotiable. I love that. Yeah, even Byron, like, right? Like he has these little banjos at night. Not all of it, but half of it. But it's not, for us, it's never been about making those things wrong, and he knows, like, actually a child's intuition with food is so beautiful. Like when they've been fed, 80% whole foods, it's so interesting because like he naturally chooses that, like you can put like I could put his little banjo on his plate and he'll still eat the carrot first, or the strawberry first, or whatever, or the meat, the protein first, right? He does. And then he'll eat a bit of the chocolate, and then he eats but it's so interesting because it's not like he's not depriving it. He knows it's there. He knows it's available, and it's his gut microbes are obviously really, really good, and it knows what it needs and doesn't need. It's really hard to be intuitive eating when your gut health isn't great, and you've been eating so much processed food for such a long time. What you're going to crave is going to be completely different to someone who doesn't eat, like eats 80% whole foods.
But it's also the palatability is like, if your diet is, more refined and more processed and less whole food, you are going to find it really hard to stick to your calorie deficit anyway, because the foods you are consuming are highly palatable. They're tasty as, they also have high calories. So when you eat them, you're going to want more and more of them because they're not actually satiating.
But the chemicals in it as well, they literally have
the sweet spot.
They purposely do it so that we consume more of it, So yeah.
So to take away from that little nutrition segment is prioritize your protein and eat your plants.
And eat your plants, yeah.
And then obviously you can sort of have more moderation. Away from that, the only other thing would say is like, obviously we run an array of classes at RFT. So when you are looking to like which class is going to be most beneficial, it's going to fall in alignment with what you need the most. So as an example, if obviously running a business, sometimes I can be a little bit stressed. So on those weeks, me pumping out 10 sweat classes is probably not going to be ideal. I'm probably going to better off going to maybe a yoga session or a stretch class. Core class to help my sore lower back today after my wrestling. So it's like picking a session that's in alignment to how I'm feeling and what I need the most. Because we already know that exercise doesn't really account for a whole heap of expenditure. So now that you know that, you can make better choices on a daily basis around the rest of your training plan and what's going to give you the most output. Because you've got to remember as well, if you are highly sympathetic and highly stressed, that's going to impact your fat loss.
Which is our last thing. Let's talk about that.
It doesn't impact your fat loss because it's the cortisol, it's impacting your choices. So like, I know when I'm highly stressed, my decision around my consistency of training lowers. My sleep becomes poor. So I'm always tired. I'm drinking more caffeine. I'm eating foods that are trying to give me energy. So it has
sleep, so your body holds on. Yeah. It affects a lot, right? Like this is the last thing, is like stress management. All right. So this is a big thing that Mitch and I really want to hone in on over the next, I guess, forever is the stress management tools. I think in the lifestyles we have now, we are highly in that, you've got your fight, flight or freeze sympathetic state, and you've also got your rest and digest, which is your parasympathetic state. And when we're in that survival state, it not only affects our body, our physical body, but it affects our mind. So, there's such an array of things that happened with our autonomic nervous system when our body is in that heightened stress,
I think like when you are stressed out, your body switches off all functions that it deems unnecessary for survival. So if I'm stressed, the only thing I'm thinking of is fighting. So think muscle tension, think high heart rate, think
your vision,
closes in.
Your vision closes in. It's got to focus. So you notice like mental clarity, fogginess in the brain, and it's very hard to focus because all you're doing right here is like it literally narrows you down because you're getting chased by a lion. Like your body does not know the difference from
when your phone ringing at 2 a.m. in the morning or the lion in the background. So other things that happen,
an email from your boss, you fight with your partner. It doesn't know. It doesn't know. We do have arguments. And it doesn't know the difference, right? But yet the way the body is responding is exactly that, right?
So things that it will switch off is it will switch off digestion. It will push all your blood flow to your extremities and closes off digestion, which means if you're having a meal.
Reproductive system. You wonder why we have so many hormonal imbalances, right? Like think about it. Like you don't need to be birthing a baby.
When you're getting chased by a lion.
When you're getting chased by a lion, right? So we're having so many issues with hormone imbalances because of stress, heightened periods of time of stress. All the blood gets rushed to extremities. So there's less blood flow happening in these vital organs, right? So we're seeing people with blood pressure. Yeah, that's what
HIV is lower.
HIV is lower.
So there's a lot of complications and implications of stress, but some simple strategy we can do to not, I think, mitigating stress.
We need to create a new baseline. You come to the gym. I love this. Like Yumi explained this to me, right? So we come to the gym with a baseline of stress, right? We come to the gym with a baseline of fitness, right? We have a starting point, and then we improve on that, right? We all come with a baseline of stress in our lives. Like, I could talk to someone and their bodies are telling me that they're highly stressed. They're in a high sympathetic state. You know, they've got headaches constantly. Their digestion is poor. They've got hormone imbalances. They've got constant headaches, muscle tension, always neck, especially neck and shoulders. Obviously, this is where we hold a lot of our stress and our tension, right? And you know, they've got all these, even skin, hair, like all these things happening in their bodies. But yet when I talk to them and ask them, what would you rate your stress in a day? And they're so used to their stress levels. Like, they tell me what they do in a day, and I'm like, whoa, like if I was in their life, it would be a 10 out of 10 stress for me, right? But they're telling me that it's, oh no, I don't have much stress. It's like a 5 out of 10, you know, because we're so used to it. We're so used to a certain level of stress in our lives. But you take us back to 1,000 years ago. Remember, our bodies have never changed. You take us back to 1,000 years ago. We did not have, like, the amount of stress we had was, hunting for food, looking for food, you know, a bear hunting, but it wasn't like constant every day with dopamine and you know, social media and you know, work stress, family stress, financial stress. Like, we have all these, I guess, balls and things that we're juggling. And so that 5 out of 10 is actually acting in the body at a 10 out of 10. But because we have no difference and we've become so accustomed.
We have our baseline's already naturally high.
Yeah, it's naturally high. So we need to reduce that baseline. I'm not saying without stress, there's obviously going to be stresses, but how are we coping with that? How are we dealing? How are we overcoming stress? What are we doing in our day? It's got to be a practice, you know? We don't just go to one yoga session for an entire week and think all our problems are going to disappear. Like, who, you know, I always say, like, who we are in the yoga session, it's more about who we are outside of that yoga session. It's who we are after that massage, you know? Like, you can be relaxed in that hour, but that's like making up 1%, not even 1% of your day. And well, 1% of the day, but I don't know, 0 point something of your entire week, you know? So we need to be implementing habits and building habits into our day that help us minimize stress. So if you are interested, because we've gone over time now, so if you are interested in knowing more about how to build habits into your day so you can start to get your bodies out of this high stress state, and you can actually start, because like Mitch said before, stress affects your nutrition choices. Okay. It affects even your alcohol choices, right? Like, because we relax with alcohol, right?
We don't relax. It actually just switches off our frontal lobe, which is the thought process of
the brain. It also, not making it wrong, I'm not saying, you know, having some alcohol is okay, but when we're using it as a way of relaxing and we're doing it every day, again, that's more stress on the body, and you're actually not sleeping properly. Like, you don't get a good night's sleep when you are drinking alcohol, because it does switch off that frontal lobe. Yeah. Anyway, so if you want to know more, put in what can they put below?
A yoga emoji.
A yoga emoji. There we go. Put a yoga emoji. And it's not about doing yoga. Is there a
breath emoji? Like,
yeah, a breath emoji was nice as well. So we can see if they've actually listened to this. But you know, stress management is absolutely crucial, okay, in being able to have long-term results.
I think I understand as well is, like, Vicky and I manage our stress both very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's levels to it. I think it's a journey as well.
Yeah. So we're gonna share some habits.
Give you context. Vicky meditates for an hour every day. I do 7 to 10 minutes.
I do too, but yes.
So 2 hours, and I'm doing between 5 and 7 minutes.
Start there, but I didn't start there. But when you're in this,
the difference.
Yeah, but I'm just. Journey. It is a journey, and it's not saying you have to do that, right? Like, I did not start there. I could hardly sit down for 5 minutes, let alone that long. So, but yeah, there are some simple strategies that you can implement into your day. So put it down below. I'm obviously as well, if you haven't known, if you want to get deeper and actually get your body's really out of this stress response, I do have Connect to Your Calm as well, which will be starting next Wednesday. Okay. But this is deeper than just the habits. This is really reprogramming, right? Because we can, stress is addictive, right? It is addictive. Well, it like science, it is actually, because it sends out chemicals in the body, right? And just like any sort of chemical reaction that happens in the body, when we have them for a prolonged period of time, we will default back to that chemical reaction, right? Like, so we will default back to it. So this is about actually rewiring and reprogramming the mind and body so that you don't default back to that old baseline. So this is a lot deeper in actually getting your bodies out of that sympathetic state, but also you're going to learn tools and resources on how to maintain that state, because it's not about just getting yourself out of that state. It's about how can we maintain this in everyday life and just keep improving on it. Okay. Because really we're headed with our health, that if we don't start managing our stress levels, we're going to have a huge health crisis. Well, we already do, right? We already do. Heart disease is like out of this world, right? And stress, stress makes up 95% of lifestyle diseases. Stress is a contributor of 95% of lifestyle diseases. This is huge. And if we don't start becoming aware and actually proactively doing something for our stress levels, our health, it's impacting our health. It's impacting our relationships. It's impacting our life, our career, because who can we be? Who are we when we are stressed? Who can we be for our jobs, for our businesses, for our clients, for our partners, for our children? It's such a crucial element. And if we can't take time out of our busy lives and do something that is going to proactively start reducing the amount of stress and how we respond to stress in our lives, we are going to have so many more issues than what we're currently having in the world. So that's my
What
rant.
a first episode of Real Talk.
Okay, we're going. Thank you so much.
Hope you enjoyed, guys.
Comment below that you've listened. Hashtag replay.
Hashtag replay and your blowy emoji.
Bye.
See you next week.